Where's she at?
Over in Untitled County.
Oh, he's gonna switch. Good job, Tyra.
Thanks, Dad.
He's just natural college.
We got panel over here. That's just messing with you. That's just messing with
You know what the funniest was that same
Oh, I heard.
39 votes.
I don't know why they bother. That's my block.
Cracks me up.
I knew Brother Howlett that was on there. I don't know if he still is. He was a monk.
Somebody else is here.
Hey, so your elections are over?
Yeah. Yeah. Kelly got that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Kelly, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Is Tina here?
Yeah, she's there.
Okay.
She was
You don't-
somewhere.
Are you running it?
We'll see. We'll see.
What's that theater?
You run that, we'll see.
No, where's are you chairing the meeting?
Yeah, Lance said he
Okay. I'll just hit the hammer, man.
he got.
Wait for anybody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You're at 10:04. Yeah, you just go. You're the one in charge. There you go, baby.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the MPO organization meeting for April 14th. I'd like to remind everyone to please silence all electronic devices, and for those who are attending virtually, mute your microphones while not speaking. At this time, I'd like to ask you all to please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
O merciful Creator, your hand is opened wide to satisfy the needs of every living creature. Make us thankful for your loving providence and grant that we, remembering the account that we must one day give, may be faithful stewards of our good gifts. Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Camille Hernandez. Mayor Scott Tremblay.
Here.
Councilman Matt Murphy.
Here.
Commissioner Ron Oakley.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Moore.
Here.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey.
Here?
Commissioner Christina Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Commissioner Jack Mariano.
Here.
And Chairman Lance Smith. Thank you.
All right, we'll call for public input. Does anyone wish to address the board? No? Not seeing anyone? All right, moving on. All right, we have our MPO Advisory Committee reports. We got Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee report by Dr. Stovall.
Good morning. Since I saw you last, we've had 3 meetings and a bike ride, so we've had kind of a busy time. Our February meeting was on the 28th of February when we met in Land O'Lakes. We heard about safety performance measures from Ms. Rousseau. We had a report from the ACOM consultants about their study of Wire Road and its potential for a bike path there. Very well received study and well deserved, and I would tell you subsequently the consultants brought that to the Zephyrhills City Council. They also received it well, and I think it's going to help improve connectivity in that area, so it's very good. We reviewed and discussed the various projects going on, and we particularly again looked at the prioritization process, and very happy with the way that seems to be working. We had a presentation from the FDOT project manager for the widening of US 301 south of 56 to Fowler. That seems like it'll be a great project. We hope it goes forward. And aside, we just need to bring north in 56, as you know. Then we had a review of our various trail projects that are in the works and moving, which we're very happy with. And the committee got the report that we had presented their high interest on creating the commercial overlay for properties adjacent to trails, so they were happy that you guys heard that. The next meeting was a Tri-County BPAC hosted by Pinellas. Unfortunately, I had COVID, so I didn't get to enjoy that meeting, but Tina went, and several of our BPAC members went, so I know it was a good meeting. They talked about that electronic bike map that I had reported to you on a previous day, making good progress on that. Our next BPAC meeting was in March. We met here in Dade City, and we had a very interesting discussion at that meeting about trail connectivity in the Land O'Lakes, central Pasco area, primarily from member Joel Jackson, who brought that to our attention. And the long and short of it is there doesn't seem to be a lot of connectivity today, but as Tina pointed out, there's things coming, and every time a new development goes in, there's some kind of discussion about connectivity. Orange Belt will provide a large, really great connectivity for them once that comes in. Sometimes it's hard to be patient, you know. We did have a pretty good discussion about the adventure cycling people's desire to create US Bike Route 15. I had reported to you earlier that that is a bike route that they would publish that goes north to south through Florida. Their preferred route would take it in Pasco County along the Withlacoochee Trail and on into Dade City, and we have connectivity to do that because of the project you guys have approved and the county is building. When we get to Zephyr Hills, though, they want to go SR 39 down into Hillsboro, and our BPAC members thought SR 39 isn't a real bike-friendly road. And so they were concerned about recommending that to people from out of the county as a place that we think you ought to ride your bicycle. So they actually passed a motion that we would not recommend that to other bicyclists because there are a lot of safer places to ride in the county. So that was the issue with that. Then we got a report from Tina about the results of the latest traffic counter studies they've got on the trails, and as you know how that works, you're able to get for a short period of time traffic counters at select sites and trails. And I'll tell you, one of the things that won't surprise anybody, but it's pretty interesting, traffic counters are on the Starkey Trail, and we had them last year as well. And on a Saturday, it's not all the time, so it's just a short period of time, but Saturday to Saturday over that year, a 75% increase in ridership.
Wow.
Is that amazing?
Yeah.
It was to me. So obviously we need traffic counter studies all the time, but every one we get informs us a little bit better. Carl talked about the T-Barda Rapid Transit Study. Certainly that'll be good for our county when they get us connected. And then Tina indicated that there had been an application for a grant to provide multimodal facility along the Old Dixie Highway in West Pasco. And then the fun thing we did on the 25th, there was an event called Ride with the Mayor in Dade City, and so it was well attended, I thought. Tina came, our consultant from ACOM came, a number of people from Cutter came. We had a bike ride and we had bike helmet fittings, and it was a really good event. So the kind of thing we'd like to see on our trails. And for TDC people, we did start at the new bike building.
Which I have to drive by
It's great.
one of these days.
All right,
Ride my bike too.
so that's my report. Any questions? No?
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stoll. All right, next we have the Technical Advisory Committee, Cynthia Spadell. Nope.
Not see her here,
Okay.
but I can cover a little bit of that. And their agenda mirrors the one you have today. And they recommended a number of items for your approval. Excuse me. There was one exception. I'll be covering that when we reach that item. But other than that, that would be the report in a nutshell.
All right. So you ready for your report for Citizens Advisory Committee?
Yes.
Okay.
So the Citizens Advisory Committee met earlier last week, and they had a long discussion about the intersection of US 41 and 54 and asked to have a workshop at a future meeting with a report of the history of that intersection. They also had an agenda that mirrors your own. They approved a number of items. One exception to that is they approved a T-Barda member a member to the T-BARTA Citizens Advisory Committee, Mr. Clint Wynn, who is on our CAC. And that's something that we could pick up when we talk about our first action item. And then they also were presented with a transportation improvement program modification, which I'll be covering under our UPWP. So those are the highlights from that meeting.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, so we're gonna move on to our first agenda item. We have eight MPO action items. The first one, of course, is the MPO Technical Advisory Committee Membership Addition, no funding required. This addition to the TAC requires a vote of the board. Do I have a motion to approve Mr. Clay Watkins to the MPO Technical Advisory Committee? Got a first, second? Any discussion?
Nope.
All right, roll call vote?
Could we also add to that then Mr. Clint Wynn for the T-BARTA Citizens Advisory Committee, as that was approved by the Citizens Advisory Committee of the Pasco MPO?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
All right. First and a second, get the roll call vote?
Did we roll call the first one?
I have to run to my car.
Do we need to separate those votes? Two separate motions?
Or can we add it?
Well, it's two separate motions, so probably need to do two
Separate
separate
votes?
roll call votes.
Okay.
Separate votes, please.
Okay.
Mayor Scott Tremblay,
Yay.
Councilman Matt Murphy,
Yes.
Commissioner Ron Oakley,
Yes.
Commissioner Mike Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey, said yes, Commissioner Christina Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Commissioner Jack Mariano,
Aye.
and Chairman Lance Smith is not here. Thank you.
And then a
And
separate
then the
vote.
other one, Mayor Scott Tremblay,
Aye.
Councilman Matt Murphy,
Aye.
Commissioner Ron Oakley,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey, Commissioner Christina Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Commissioner Jack Mariano.
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, we're moving on to item number 2, Pasco County MPO Draft Unified Planning Work Program, no funding required. This item will be presented by Carl.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
So this is our 2-year plan of expenditures and work for the MPO. This is a federally required document, and it will take effect July 1 of this year. We present to you the draft and then bring to you the final at a later meeting. It is currently in a public review or public comment period, and so that is open for comment, but we're also obligated to bring it to you. Think of this essentially as our application to the federal government for those federal funds we use to pay for the salaries and operations of the MPO. And it does outline the work and products that will be performed over that 2-year period. With this, last month you approved an amendment to the TIP to move some money, and there's a correlation modification to the UPWP, or I'm sorry, you approved an amendment to the UPWP. There's a correlated TIP amendment that we are required to notify you of, and wanted to let you know that we have performed that TIP modification as that secondary step to the TIP amendment that you approved last meeting. So we are seeking your approval on this draft document. We have received comments from FHWA and Florida DOT. We will have those addressed shortly and have a final prepared for you at our next meeting.
All right, thank you. This does require a vote of the MPO board. Do I have a motion to approve the draft
So moved.
UPWP?
Second.
First, second. The roll call vote?
Aye.
Councilman Matt Murphy,
Aye.
Commissioner Ron Oakley,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey, Commissioner Christina Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Commissioner Jack Mariano.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Move on to agenda item number 3, update the staff services agreement. This item will be presented by Ms. Tania Gorman.
Good morning. I'm here to review the staff services agreement for travel amendment. Previously, we came to you in regards to staff services agreement to delineate the executive director's roles and responsibilities. Subsequently, we had a federal quadrennial review that issued a corrective action to update our staff services agreement as it relates to outlining the formal travel policy between the county and the NPO. And currently, the primary changes are outlined in Section 2 in scope of services and Section 6 in travel and travel expenses. The NPO currently follows federal, state, and local statutes as it pertains to travel. We're asking the NPO board to review and approve the current update to the staff services agreement as it relates to travel.
All right, thank you. This does require a vote of the MPO board. Do I have a motion to approve the update to the staff service agreement, to direct the chair to sign the updated interlocal agreement, and to direct the clerk to distribute as set forth under the distribution section? I had a first and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Mayor Scott Tremblay.
Aye.
Councilman Matt Murphy.
Aye.
Commissioner Ron Oakley.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey. Aye. Commissioner Christina Fitzpatrick. Aye. Commissioner Jack Mariano.
Aye.
Thank you.
Let the record reflect somebody that I'm here, and I don't know if you want me for a roll call vote anymore. That's okay.
Sure, why
And
not?
Mayor Camille Hernandez.
No, that's all right, but I'm here.
Welcome, Mayor Hernandez.
And I'll vote aye.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
She did
thank
have
you.
name just to mix things up a little bit.
It's all good. Last couple of weeks, you know, my toes.
Just teasing.
All righty, we're moving on to item number 4, draft list of project priorities. This item will be presented by Ms. Tina Russo.
Okay, I'm gonna have to move a cord, so if you lose power, I'm gonna plug it back in. Sorry.
All right, go ahead.
Over here, over here. I got a thing.
Never mind. Got the charges.
Yeah.
Good morning, MPO Board. Tina Russo, Active Transportation Planner for the Pasco MPO. We started this process the end of last year. Carl called for projects from the jurisdictions, and we also had started finalizing that methodology on how we would rank these projects. What you see now on the screen that you have there is that final ranking of those projects. Again, the main concept or criteria that we used when we ranked these projects, that methodology, the main was safety. There were several other factors that you guys agreed upon on ranking these projects, but the number one was safety. We also, based on DOT's recommendations for the last few years, have put non-motorized and motorized projects on that table 1 as well. But this is the ranking that came out of that methodology, and with those, some of those new projects that were presented with from the county and Newport Richey. Next screen, please. So again, that's that ranking. So go back, I think. Oh, this is good. We're on the program project. So one of the things that doesn't show up in our LOP is those program projects. These are the projects that have funding. They're in different years for construction, but these are program projects that you will not see on that list of priority projects that are seeking funding from DOT. So these are the projects that have been on the lot for several years, that are in several stages of construction funding. If you look to the far right, they give you that funding year for construction. But these are all program, and I have a couple different pages of them. And some of these are motorized, some of these non-motorized. If you want to take a minute to look at these, you've seen these on our lot for years, and now they're coming close to being hopefully finished. And again, some of these are set for construction several years out. Some of them are construction currently. But several of these projects were on the lot and they're programmed for construction. We don't take them off the lot until they're done as well. So next page, just real quick. Some of these are all of our program ones that have finally been set for construction several years out. And then, next page. So these are our TA projects, our transportation alternative projects. They're mainly our sidewalk projects. Again, we put all of our non-motorized, our bigger projects, multi-use paths, on that table 1 because of the funding that they require. So these are all those programmed, mainly sidewalks that have been programmed in the last few years. A couple of them last year. Range Road, I think Leonard were in this past year. Again, they're in that 5-year work program, so they're not set for construction until several years out. But that's that process that we go through. And we've had several of these throughout the years that have been programmed throughout. And those are all our program TA projects that are set for construction. There is one Safe Routes to School on there as well. That's at the top, I think.
Which one?
I believe it's the Bexley Elementary one, and it says sidewalk,
SRT.
and then it has SRT, which means it's Safe Routes to School. Our county looks for Safe Routes to School projects. Again, there's a very strict criteria for Safe Routes to School for them to be funded by Safe Routes to School. If that doesn't happen, that's when we usually seek other funding sources to get those sidewalks done.
Mr.
I'll
Chair.
give you a little bit of information about sidewalks here in just a minute.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Thank
Good.
So, as we all know, the school district has discontinued bus service up to, I think it was either 2 or 3 miles?
2 miles.
2 months.
2 miles. I don't know if you are, but I've gotten several emails from constituents with concerns to that. How does that going to work with our prioritization of these sidewalks? Because you just made the mention of safe routes to school. There's a lot of these, unfortunately, these areas now that there won't be a safe route to school. Some of the areas that, so our constituents, our mutual constituents, reached out to me on. I know those areas, and there are no sidewalks, and they will have to walk in either yards or streets. You see how that's probably going to play out when they're walking in people's yards. Probably not very well for some of them. And then obviously we don't want them in the streets. So what's the communication been, if any, between your department and the school district? Because now when they did this, that they made the decision to do this, and I understand that's what's going on when it comes to lack of bus drivers, which is unfortunate. But now the county has this burden to build, construct sidewalks to have these safe routes to school. How's it going to work? Is there some type of mutual funding that the school board's willing to work with us on, or what are you aware of?
A couple of different items. First off, there is a school safety group that meets monthly that discusses several different things, whether it be crossing guards, traffic officers, sidewalks, all those different crosswalks, everything. So they meet monthly as well. And again, it's a group of agencies and departments that all interact with that. The second thing is right now, and it is a county process, we're working on the county process of how we're going to fund these sidewalks and rank them. Debbie Bolduck's left. There is a list there, so there is a process that we're working through currently on how we're going to get all these projects in a list, rank them, and then go after that funding. Again, there's different pots of funding. Again, that's just as much as a county process. We're going to help with the funding part of that process.
So the school board is able to, the district, I should say, they are able to go after certain grants that they can be a part of. I worked with them on one in the past. This unfortunately needs to happen now.
Right.
Because, I mean, things got to get moving. And it's unfortunate that now this burden is also on the county, but at the same time, I think, if I'm not correct, for some of these, it actually needs to be the school district to make the initial application for some of those grants.
So the way it's worked in the past, and this is just as far as what I know, and again, with Tracy, who took Debbie Bolduck's spot with project management, is they were the ones that worked with the school board in doing that application for Safe Routes to School. The MPO has done what we call those transportation alternative applications. Now, how we proceed with that, especially since Debbie's left, is what we're currently working on now, and looking at different funding sources and different, again, we have to rank them and put them in there. There's a list of several on there already, so.
Yeah, now everything's just changed.
Yeah.
I mean, like that.
Yeah.
since
And
this
then-
decision was
correct.
made, it's
Yeah.
changed.
And then a right-of-way is going to be a big part of that. And that's, again, we've just recently kind of tackled this problem as a whole with the county as well. It's nothing easy about it. Again, we had a presentation about Land O'Lakes, trying to figure out, one of the issues is them going from basically Lake Page, Badger.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Yeah, so we know those issues, so we're starting to look at them and kind of go from there. That's all I can actually say at this time. We're working on it and try to figure out the best way to proceed.
Yeah, just my advice
Nothing
would
easy.
be if they're going to move forward and want to apply for these grants, it needs to happen now.
Right.
Mr. Starkey, you recognize.
I see the importance of that, but I think there has to be a process where they identify the most critical ones.
Oh, I agree.
And
Yeah.
then, I mean, that's a lengthy process, because then it's got to be right-of-way purchase if we
Yeah.
have to, so that nothing's going to happen fast.
I'm with you. It's
So-
like,
Yeah.
so we got to start moving on it.
But there are programs that are out there that I know when Longleaf came and dealing with some of these issues at different, well, I can't remember that, Safe Routes to School Convention or whatever they call it, or, there's things called the walking school bus and other ways to, for community to come together and help their kids get to school safely. Yeah, so I think we should try and mobilize some meetings like that, and your committee probably would be the best one to do that.
And
That's when parents take turn walking the kids to school, and they have, an organized effort within a community.
we did a presentation to you guys quite a few months ago when we did a Safe Routes to School with Starkey Ranch Elementary, because it's not really elementary. Starkey Ranch School, first time opening, so we really kind of honed in on that safe routes. We had the opportunity, because the infrastructure allowed us different ways, sidewalks, multi-use paths, we had a lot of different options to take advantage of that. Our older schools, that's going to be really, really hard to do
Yeah.
that catch-up, because they don't have those infrastructures, and that's where that prioritization and right-of-way, and that's what kind of, and that's the first thing we look at, is that right-of-way, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, as a follow-up, I'm with you, because some of the conversations I've had to have with some of these parents is like, unfortunately, it's a long process for
Yep.
right-of-way, to do this right-of-way acquisition, just that portion. And not, as we know, not everybody is willing, are willing sellers.
Yeah.
So if you have to go through the eminent domain route, which is not commonplace amongst, the county, we typically don't like to do that. You're gonna have to get together, like you said, and as a neighborhood, and get everybody on the same page and work together to make it happen. Because if one person says no,
Google walking school.
Mr. Fitzpatrick, you recognize.
And are you aware of the areas that have been deemed unsafe? Because the areas that have been deemed unsafe for walkable routes to school, they do provide busing. So how has that affected those neighborhoods?
So that program is, again, very, very hard to get that to happen, and that's been changed quite a bit with this recent legislation that's gone on, too. So that hazardous walking situation, there's a lot of criteria with it that goes along with it. We've had several schools that we've looked at that, and it hasn't qualified for that, unfortunately. So that's where we're going back to a different, hey, what can we do next to make this work? We feel the urgency, just let you guys know, Commissioner Moore. I mean, this has been a big discussion
Yeah.
with all our folks in the county about figuring out how the best way to move forward with this. Even with our TA applications, and I'll give you an example, Leonard Road. We finally got Leonard Road in a TA application, but it's 5 years
I
out
know, I'm
before
looking at that, like-
construction. So, I mean, DOT,
25
our
years to
safety
get that
office with
sidewalk.
DOT is really helping us out with a lot of different things. They have some gap money that might be coming through. But again, we're moving forward with the process to move forward on how we can help with this
Follow up,
situation.
then Mayor Hernandez
On
and
that gap
Commissioner
money,
Mariano.
so I remember long before you were here, or you were here, that we, at the end of DOT's year, if there's projects that weren't able to go forward that had received funding, there's a committee that chooses projects that are shovel-ready where that money can get sprinkled. Is that gap money?
So, and DOT, and the safety money I'm talking about with Peter is basically for sidewalks that they're looking at for gap money. Now, that's probably mainly FDOT facilities as well. But again, if we can prioritize and get that list that he's talking about and go from there, and that's what we're working on now. And again, they have to be artillery and collectors to even qualify for those funds too, which makes it interesting as well.
Well, my comments includes that, but in general, I mean, we should always, we didn't get any money for years. I had them pull the report because we didn't have any shovel-ready projects. Do you remember, Jack? We didn't have any shovel-ready projects, so the other counties were getting that sprinkle, and we weren't getting any for years. So I just want to be mindful that we always have shovel-ready projects to take advantage of that opportunity.
We are working towards that because we know that's even more so at this point in time, that
Yes.
those shovel-worthy projects, there's more opportunity for funding for them
Yeah.
too, so. But
All right, we got
Move
follow-up,
on.
Commissioner.
With Tanglewood, I know everyone
Yes.
within that
We need
neighborhood,
a sidewalk.
it was been deemed unsafe, and every student in Tanglewood was eligible for a bus transportation
Okay.
due to that, so I don't know if it's affected them. And also the Ridge Road with Pasco Elementary and Middle School, that they've deemed that unsafe, so it doesn't matter where you had lived if you had to cross Ridge Road. So I would like to get a follow-up, or if you are aware, on if Tanglewood students or Pasco Elementary students have been affected by this.
So Carl wrote both those down, and I'll follow up with the school board, because again, they're the ones that have to, one component of that hazardous walking situation application, so I'll follow up with both those schools.
They had already been deemed unsafe.
Okay.
Can I ask, I
Hold
want
on,
to tell
we
her
got
something
them
about
doing the
Tanglewood?
inch on the
I know, I
phone.
just want to tell her something about
All
Tanglewood.
right.
When we were trying to get a sidewalk on Mile Stretch, one of the neighborhood activists and I went to every house and got all the land donated. So you might do the walk on Tanglewood.
The
It'll speed that up.
concern with Tanglewood is the developer that was interested in putting a development on Ridge Road, they were against the sidewalks
No,
through their neighborhood.
they have
So-
nothing to do with sidewalks in the neighborhood. But you might get people to donate that property, and then you can move that along quickly.
Mayor Hernandez?
Yeah, obviously, we're all very passionate about this. I agree with everything that's been said, so I don't have to say it over again, but here's the most concerning thing is the time. Dade City has been involved in safe routes to school, the old way. There was surveys, I mean, some of these kids that are in first grade are gonna
Yep.
be probably, they'll be going to middle school and high, I mean, it takes so long, and this is one of those projects that time is of the essence, and so bad idea, and yes, it's labor intensive, but the actual knocking on the
Yeah,
door, the
they'll give
grassroots
it.
campaign,
Yeah.
I mean, there really needs to be creative thinking here, because it's not gonna work, Commissioner Moore. It's not gonna weigh the work, even if you start moving all of the marbles around.
You can't
These
wait 5
children are
years.
it's gonna be, and Dade City's a prime example of, just getting in sidewalks, we're putting in a sidewalk now that, and y'all know I'm leaving, but that I started a decade ago, it's finally happening. We can't wait.
Hey, Leonard's 25 years.
Yeah.
So the families, the parents, knowing all this, we really are, we've all seen it happen with everything else that's happening in Pasco County. So it's really gonna be an activist kind of movement, a creative in the interim, because whether it's walking groups or bicycling groups, there's gonna have to be alternative methods, because I hate to say it, we cannot wait for you guys. It ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
Because,
Correct.
So there's
Government's
really
like
gotta
a
be
turtle.
some creative solutions here, because.
They'll be
we're gonna
graduated.
lose hate to say it. I mean, in Dade City here, most of the time, we don't have sidewalks. These children are walking in the roads. Somebody's gonna get hurt. So I feel the passion, we all are saying the same thing, but time is not on our side to wait for you. Yeah, you're all wonderful staff, but to go through the process, having been through it in Dade City, it takes years, and it's a lot of work.
Commissioner Mariano?
Thank you. I'll say in general, the scoring system that we're using right now, now that you've mentioned there's got flaws now because it's got to be changed because of the recent change with the school board policy, but I will tell you from when I look at the list that's on there, I had projects been on it for 15 years. Zimmerman Ranch Road. These are two busy roads. Accidents have happened. Right-of-way is difficult in the first part of Ranch Road, wide open the second part, but even when it was designed on Ranch Road, it didn't go all the way to Ponderosa, which makes no sense. There's a park there, there's right-of-way that would just, a ditch got cleaned out. There's plenty of room for a sidewalk to go in all the way down. I thought it was brilliant, and then I see that it stops. And there's a park that's there owned by the Civic Association, I believe, that you could get for no right-of-way. Zimmerman is a dangerous road. You've got all the right-of-way to the side that we own, that frankly, I think we just build another road and put some palm trees in between it, our landscaping that we have. You can make that a nice road. I'm actually going to work with Lakuchi coming up this week to go move a pole over so that it makes a seamless fit. But you get all those kids going to school, and you get nowhere to walk. But it's been dangerous from day one. In this new scoring system, we're all about safety. I don't know how it goes, other than the kids won't walk that way. But it's a major convenience to be able to walk down that roadway than going through a neighborhood out and around. So I'm not happy with the way the scoring system results came out. I gave it a chance, looked at it. I don't like the results. When I look at District 5, you got one project in there. Just added because Jasmine came in, I think probably because of the school, it's at the circle, that came in this need. It's a busy road, no doubt. You have the right-of-way issue. To help with the solution, when we did Hicks Road sidewalk project years ago, same time we started with Seven Springs, Seven Springs was easy because you had the right-of-way right away. That road got built within 2-3 years. This Hicks Road took a little bit longer, but the process we did, different from FDOT, I believe, but we went out and the citizens had a public meeting at the high school, got everybody to show up, an eminent domain lawyer showed up. But the people donated the right-of-way or agreed to a normal price for the right-of-way all the way through. It cut the cost down in over half. I think what we've got to do with these things here, this has taken way too long for all these projects. You got penny for Pasco renewal coming up. When we had our meeting the other day, I pushed that we should be putting projects on the list. And we got pushback from the administration. Talked to Dan Bowles this morning. Dan, we need to put these projects on the list. I pulled the list that we had from the first renewal to the second renewal. There's no reason we shouldn't have projects on the list. If it takes using DOT, FDOT, and the money we get from them, let's go design all these things all the way through, have the construction money ready. In about 3 years, when that money starts becoming available from Penny, we can fund them all that way. But let's start the design right now on all these projects we want to get done, so we'll be ready in 2 to 3 years, and then we can do a massive project to get them all done. The way we're doing it's not working. Not for anybody here. I mean, there's too much going on with the school board change. We've got to do something different. And when you consider you can save money if you use penny for Pasco, we're not subject to that Davis-Bacon Act, which drives up the cost dramatically. We can do them much, much quicker. So I think we got to take a whole new approach in this and what we're doing. I'm frankly so disappointed with the scoring and the projects, and we'll talk about the Cody River Underpass in a minute too, but all these projects here are getting pushed back, and again, scoring system where my district, as you say, it's tough to get the infill done. Well, now you got a major reason to get the infill done. It's very important. If we don't invest in the west side, it's going to continue to go down. It's starting to make a comeback, people moving from the south coming up here, but you got to put the investment in. And the way we're doing it, it's just going to take too long. And you want to talk more of that, but I want to talk about the Cody River Underpass as well.
Okay.
All right, so Cody River Underpass, that project was ranked #1 just last year. It's now ranked down low. And I'd like to hear from the cities, because if funding, or not putting matching funding in is a problem, then you go a different way. But frankly, if you get the match to what your citizens wanted, then we can work on getting the golf cart part done. If you don't want to match, and the match is not going to happen with the other issues we have out there, which are even listed, then you're going to have to go pedestrian. It's up to you. It's your citizens, and then we go through the MPO process, which will take who knows how long. But as far as safety goes, I don't know why that's #1 for that #1 reason. You got so many people, golf carts crossing. I don't know if you need to have a few deaths from someone driving across that gets hit, or do you fix the thing now? I think we need to go fix the thing now.
So go ahead and next slide, because those are the programs. So the next,
Yeah, I'm gonna
page.
pass down
Yeah.
this. I had Terry Pitos pass this over. Carl, if you want to take a look at this too? After talking to Dan Bowles this morning, I asked about the projects, and Carl and I had sent email as far as what was going on with it, but this kind of gives it data. I hate passing out stuff that's like last second, but I only got it this morning. But Carl, maybe you can even, or Tina, just let's talk about what is going on with the project.
He's the same?
go ahead.
One extra, the one that just went down.
So Cody
I haven't
River.
even read this whole thing, so I don't expect you to read it, but at least you'll have it for down the road.
So Cody River Underpass is a project that has been apparently on our project prioritization list previously. And when I arrived here last year, it was being talked about. So I asked if there was an interest in moving forward. At the time, there was an estimate that in order to do an underpass with both golf cart facility and then bicycle and pedestrian, approximately half of that project would be attributable to the expense of a golf cart or a golf cart facility. The running number at the time was like 6 or 7 million, and so it would require half of that money to come from non-state, non-federal funds. That is because golf carts are not eligible, or golf cart facilities are not eligible for state or federal funds under the current programs we have. This is a state route, US 19, so it would be advisable that if we wanted to pursue this, that we would assemble the money and ask DOT to do the construction because it is their facility, US 19. So they would feel confident that the construction was done in a manner that protected their facility. I've not had a follow-up discussion with DOT since last summer on this. This came up today. But where we left at last was that the financing for the golf cart facility was a large obstacle that stood in the way of moving the project forward. Later on, and I'm going to guess it's around August or September of last year, and it's in here, but I'm going off of memory. A landowner on the east side of US 19 had passed away. That landowner was previously unwilling to sell. The estate was willing to sell the one parcel we needed, but only as a package of 3 parcels. But at the time, it did not look like we were going to be able to pull together the local half for the golf cart portion of the facility, so we did not pursue it further. And that is where we last left the project.
So the county's willing to participate. We've said we would. We need the cities to participate to whatever the numbers are, if it's going to happen. And again, having golf carts as opposed to not, I think the major thing people like is like going back and forth. And if you don't have a way for them to get there safely, it's going to be a bigger issue. And someone may get hit coming across. I mean, 2-lane roads are difficult enough to cross, never mind a 6-lane highway, with the most dangerous dangerous in the world. So I think we need to have a discussion what we really want to do and move forward with it.
Mr. Starkey?
And I agree, and I've always been in support of this. I think it's a tourism, economic development driver, but I think we need to prioritize then, what is the priority of the cities to, where do they want us to focus these dollars on? Because you've got the Grand Boulevard Trail, you've got the Marine Parkway Trail, and you've got this trail, and I don't think we can do all of them. So in my mind, this underpass is super important. And, you know, I'm all about trails, but I've said it before here, and I don't know if you were here, though. With that Marine Parkway overpass, it doesn't connect anything yet. And so I would much rather put that money to this underpass. If the city, if you guys are, if it's connecting to something, it can't, when you're going to spend big bucks like that, you don't put the big bucks in first and then build the trails around it. You build the trails and then you put the, you know, the connector in. So I think we need to have discussion about what is the #1 priority, and then let's go for it. And to me, it should be this underpass. But Tina looks like she's getting ready to come up here. But
So when it came to the ranking of these projects, yes, safety was a big part of it, but there were several criteria that the methodology was part of this ranking system that you guys have reviewed for several months. And again, Cody moved down on that list based on that new ranking system. Again, we talked about also, just because it's further down on that list, there's different pots of money for different types of projects. So it not being #1 doesn't mean that there's not funding opportunity for it as well.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
So if we're going to have different funding pots that are there, and I know like this one project that showed up that I don't think anybody here heard about was Elizabeth Ave, safety crossing along US 19. Never heard about it. Just saw it.
Where's Elizabeth?
It's just south of Beacon Woods Drive. It's
Just north
between
of 52.
52 and Beacon Woods Drive. So that comes in and it gets on the list. So if we're going to look at things have different pots of money, and then, by the way, part of the reason Zimmerman is off the list, they could put in the Safety Routes to Schools program and said it's not safe, it's not dangerous enough to go have it done. So we got pulled off the list where it was in line, and now it's like yanked out. So if we're going to go, maybe we need to structure these differently. If we're going to go pots of money, then don't put them all on one list. So you get a list for this, list for that, list for the other thing, whatever it may be, but to put them all together and say, well, we can't do that because of this, funding's coming, it doesn't make sense. How much money's available, where does it fit, and let's divide them up one by one for each pot of money.
And can they stay on multiple lists at the same time? Because if one doesn't qualify at the other list, it should never have been removed from the previous list.
It should have.
As far as the underpass, I guess that's the question, is the money, how is it being divvied up, or what's needed? So what, $3.5 million basically has got to come from the cities and the county. So I guess that's the question, Newport Richie said that we would help, but I guess what are the other parties willing to do?
Let me give an idea. So as far as like a penny for Pasco project coming up, which I think is going to be the way it's going to have to get built at one point, if you're shifting things around, cost-wise, et cetera. Penny for Pasco is going to come up. The cities could take a look at what's going to happen over the next 10 years. Maybe the county can front the money up, but you're going to contribute a portion of that money over 10 years, allocate it out to what that number is, and put that money coming in, and make that a penny for Pasco project. But if we have to fund the money up front, because you guys can't afford to go do it, then maybe that's what we need to look at. If you can't afford to do it, that's even better way, but that'll be something, a bigger conversation, but I'm willing to take a look at it.
But they get penny money.
That's what I'm saying. So that's what I said. So they can take part of the penny money they get and go put it toward this project. Over 10 years, if they can't afford to do it right away, then at least we know it's allocated, we're going to get the money back, which lets us do other projects we're going to use with transportation too.
Well, I'm glad you're talking about penny money for multimodal transportation, because at the workshop, you were against using the penny for multimodal transportation. I wasn't sure if you were really sure what you were saying there, because there's a lot of trails and things like this we want to get built, so I don't want to mess with that formula of not giving money for multimodal transportation.
No, what we're looking at here, it's just so expensive to build them through the MPO. And we're delayed. And now with the new school things, we can't get done what we need to get done. Let's find a better way to spend this money. And if it takes using two different pots, then so be it. But again, it's going to come to the cities right now to say what we want to do. And if it's not now, it's got to be very shortly.
Do we have a planner that's working that now that Mary Helen left?
There is, her duties have been spread out across people. I don't know whom is working on Cody River Underpass, but I know none of the projects have been left to languish, that they have been distributed. So that I know, I can't tell you whom it is today.
So, I think there's a lot of discussion that still has to be had for that trail, and I'm not comfortable, I don't know how much we should move this around until someone has more discussion on that. But it's a high priority for me, because I think it's really good for the region. I don't know about you guys.
Mr. Chair, yeah, I don't disagree. I think it's great for the region. I
Yeah.
The mayor and the chair, everybody, from the cities would agree as well. I've been personally, I'm not trying to get my private life here, but I've been spending I'm just being honest, I've been spending quite a bit of time over there. I go to American Marina, which is right there, and been frequenting going out in the boat at American Marina recently, lots of times on Sundays and Fridays, but that place is hopping. I mean, you guys are doing awesome stuff there. Yeah. And it's really, really, really hopping there. I know correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, you can jump in on this. When people like to bounce around, as you know, sometimes to the different restaurants and things like that, what's the restaurant on the other side of the river by the pier again?
Whiskey River.
Is that Whiskey River, right?
Yeah.
So if you're over there at Catches or somewhere, it's very difficult to go from Catches, over the bridge and then have to walk around and go to Whiskey River. So there's an instance where this could obviously be good. If you feel like walking up and down the riverside and going across the bridge and going to the restaurants, obviously this is definitely a benefit as well. And that's in addition to what you've already talked about, Commissioner, with the golf carts or scooters or however you're gonna get around. But I think even just making it more walkable is great. I mean, I would assume that you and the cities probably agree with that. I'm just a guy from the east side of the county that likes to visit, but I think it'd be very beneficial for the citizens in the area too.
And Chair, if I can weigh in.
Go ahead, Mayor.
What you guys are talking about is interesting because it comes at a timing where we have appropriated our CRA funding to redevelop that whole area. And it's going to be, we're done with the design phase, we're coming up on the bid phase. And rather than having several phases of construction, we've decided to do it all in one shot because it's just cheaper and it'll get done quicker. And that's going to include sidewalks, lighting,
Very nice.
and all the other safety amenities that you want as we start to draw more people into that area. The issue in terms of the underpass, it's an important issue for our city because most of our citizens, it's a golf cart community, and there's no way around it. And some of the discussions I've had have been with the mayor over in Newport Richey, Rob Marlowe, about how to link the cities, and by golf cart is probably one of the best ways to link the two cities. So there's certainly a need there, and it's an important need. The issue for us is really revolves about money. When you talk about a $7 million project and then splitting half of that between the different entities, splitting $3.5 million, that's a bite or a chunk that the county generally would have the resources to do with a lot in terms of their proportion of how much money comes in. Our budget this year is going to be right around $7 million total for our entire city. So when you're talking millions of dollars or over $1 million, that is such a large portion of our budget that it makes it difficult to step forward and say, gee, we want to make that commitment and do it. Because simply, there's just not enough finances in a small city to do that or to match a bigger entity like the county. Or even Newport Richey, I think, is 7 or 8 times the size that we are in terms of population. So one of the things that we were talking about is if it was one of those things that we said, gee, we'll pay our proportion as it relates to a population versus Newport Richey population versus county population, and there's a scale there, so it's not an equal pot of money, I think that would be much more doable for a very small city. And I think that's been the sticking point is that, hey, we want the city to step up and come up with $1 million, $1.5 million. That's too big of a chunk, I think, for us
I am in agreement with you.
And that's the discussion that we've had, and that's been one of the sticking points. Where if you said, look, you have 3,000 people, and Newport Richey has 25,000 people, in the county in that area has X amount of people, and it was proportionate, I think it would be an easier discussion for our city to have.
So we also think that we should collectively ask for a state appropriation for that. And if all 3 of us ask for it, come in together.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I agree 100%. That could be, we're looking at the priorities, upcoming priorities for the next session. We're going to start working on these soon. Session doesn't start till March next year, but committee weeks will start, in January, if I'm not correct? So, how we do it, I know we've harped on this, we got to keep moving probably, but how we work on this, on the county commission now, we all put in one project. We used to put in multiple, but we all kind of usually pick one now. That way, we're not overburdening the legislators with multiple projects. So that might be something that some of our, our commissioners on the west side might be willing to take that up as one of their priority projects, as well as the city and the county. So when you have all 3 lobbying together for this project.
And I think that comes under economic development, personally.
Please.
Hey, did the city ask for that money for that project this past year? Or did they ask for any projects from the state? I'm just curious, because we probably had the ability to get that this past year.
That's how we
Yeah.
Dade City, yeah, worked
Dade
very
City's
hard.
got their,
We went right
well,
there.
hopefully we get past the veto. We still have that
You don't
there.
have this year, but in past years with the Hardy,
But
with
yes,
others, we stuck it on the list.
City,
Sorry.
Dade City needs money to do projects too. They have to reach
Right.
out to the state, so.
Well, I think we were kind of a little bit in limbo on what was going on with that one, so I think what they put forward for Newport Richie was just some infrastructure projects, you know,
Yeah.
stormwater, things like that. But I know we're willing to talk about it, and if we can get the state, you know, to pony up some too, that's even better. I think we just gotta, you know,
Well, I think it'd be,
prioritize it, go after it,
yeah,
and
I
do it.
think it'd be of interest to all of us if we shared in support of different projects for the city level as well as county.
But if we go and ask
Yeah.
the state, it has to be higher than what it is here. We can't, you know, that's the thing.
Madam, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair. I agree on the economic development side, and DOT's probably like, yeah, go for economic development dollars.
I think that's where, I think that's the pot we should go for.
Yeah, but I agree,
Yeah,
That makes sense,
absolutely.
because with economic, that's where you're gonna get, it's easier to get that funding, economic development, when there's, for infrastructure versus land deals, I'll leave it at that. So I agree.
Frankly-
We're not gonna figure it out right now, but I think we're all in agreement, that would be a good idea.
You know what?
Marietta?
You know that the Tampa got their west side trail money from the feds. So there's another opportunity.
Well, we have a federal lobbyist.
Federal side,
We have a
yes.
federal lobbyist,
So we
that's-
should talk to him about that.
Ms.
But
Marietta?
the question is, does it have to be higher on the list? Do we have to show to them that it's important to us?
Well, it's economic development, so you might have to
Well-
have it on another list as well.
Maybe we ask our lobbyists.
Yeah.
Let me ask this question if I could, Mr. Chairman, to Carl or DOT. Now, one of the fears that was talked about before is you don't want to take things to try to get state money, because if you don't get funded, you're going to lose it for 5 years. However,
Yeah, that's right.
the way the money was asked for Ridge Road, County Line Road, County Line Road, I'll say, the way it was asked for, the way the funding source was going to be, it didn't affect that DOT allocation.
have that
It wouldn't have to come off the
veto-
list. It didn't have.
that
if
veto
it-
rule?
Well, just the funding, as Secretary Gwynn said, it was different from the DOT's project pot of money,
It was.
so they have to redo. So the great thing was, that didn't kick County Line Road back, okay? We want to make sure if we're going to do this, we do the same exact way.
That's why.
And I
Direct
think,
from DOT.
I think it's going to actually be better, because DOT is going to struggle with the golf cart. Okay? Davis-Bacon, if the feds fund it, we don't care. As far as if it gets done, it gets done. That may be the thing to look at. But how would we best go about looking to get that road funded without hurting DOT proportionally, whether we go for federal money or otherwise? Because it's kind of, I don't know how tricky it is. If I'm going to go through DOT, I can't do the golf cart, right? If I go to Fed money, it's on my list. Do I get to keep the DOT money out of it because I can't fund it? It's kind of a tricky scenario, I guess. How do we go about that?
The golf cart aspect of it will be our hanging point, because the golf carts are not eligible with state or federal funds. So if we went for a discretionary fund grant through the feds directly, the golf carts would again be an issue, because they're not an eligible mode of transportation for those funds, unless they have special rules for one of the discretionary grants. I think a lot of the projects you're referring to in the current legislative session were funded through the American Recovery Program funds, which is why they're being handled a little differently.
Yeah.
I think that's also a one-year-only program. So future earmarks then are taken out of the DOT budget, and then if they're vetoed, we lose the funding and the project, and they're prohibited from programming for 5 years.
So would you say, pretty much, if we're going to fund this thing the way we want it to be, the way our citizens want it to be, that we're going to have to fund it ourselves?
No, I go after economic development money.
Can't we take the
Economic
percentage?
development appropriation.
Okay.
Yeah, the economic
let's-
development may have different
So
rules.
just
I'm
to get-
not
so out of the
intimately
transportation
familiar.
world, we're just going to go directly to economic development. But we just can't tie DOT and
Let's talk to
transportation.
people, see if that will fly. I mean, I think it would. But I'm not an expert. But I'm just suggesting we try that.
It's complex.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can Well,
Can-
Andy, let's work on that side. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We'll help with that too.
Commissioner
Oh,
Fitzpatrick.
Can we find out the percentages on how much does it cost for the pedestrian side of it, and what is the additional cost for the golf cart, and then go in and just ask for them to
have that.
cover the cost of the
That might be
pedestrian
in
side?
here.
Very excellent question, and we have that information with the feasibility study, because the golf carts actually came in later on in that study, so we have that information in that study as well. So that's a good idea. That probably would be some of the discussion as well, when we talk about different funding sources, that can we fund just the trail part, the non-motorized part with certain funding, and then the rest of it with other funding. So we can have that discussion as well. And we have most of that information, I would think, in that feasibility study.
Thank you.
Commissioner Starkey.
So I have one more question on our list, and that has to do with tower and what potentially is going to happen on the tower. We'll find out in a few weeks. So, there's still a lot of work to be done to be sure that this youth sports complex is going to happen. But, but if it does, then towers or at least parts of it's going to have to be accelerated. So do we need to do anything here, or can we adjust this again if that happens, and how does that work?
So the list that is before you today is a list of projects that have been ranked using various two different methodologies for roadways and then for non-motorized projects. It's assembled into one list because that works best for Florida DOT. Now, they have various pots of money and they can pick anything from the list. They don't necessarily have to fund
Can you pull that
number
back
one.
up, because I didn't see it on here?
Sure.
And I can't,
pages
for some reason, access I can't pull it up on my iPad for some reason. It's just the PDF online.
Oh. Can you see it on the screen in front of you?
It's on their draft, keep going.
Oh.
It's where their LOP is, another
Yeah, I can't read
direction.
that. Let me try with my glasses.
Forward, where it says draft on it.
Just my staff
Keep
was
going.
reading it to me as I drove here.
Keep going.
Another? There we go.
So, tower should be.
It was 18th, so you don't have it on here.
Down one more.
And again, tower was a new project added to the list. And again, and it was brought up in the TAC meeting by VNCAP, as we come up with plans for different corridors and different things, that can be added to these projects as we go along. And that was made, the TAC suggested that. So that discussion, and it was actually an action item that as projects and plans come in, that would be added into the ranking system in the future. So that was made by our TAC, our Technical Advisory Committee.
Okay, so we're not cementing ourselves to this and shooting ourselves in the foot for that big project.
So in the event that, say, the Rays Stadium would, a stadium would be built there, obviously the need for it would move up. Because we've ranked the projects in the order they're shown, it does not tie the hands of Florida DOT to only start at number 1. They can pick up number 18.
Okay.
And this is our request to them, just kind of like when we were little, and we used to put in a wish list to Santa at Christmas. This is our wish list to Florida DOT. But they're also going to be looking at, they have a fund type that's available, and it only can work on certain projects. And they may have to bypass the first, 7 projects to find the first one that's eligible for that fund type.
Okay, all right.
So, yeah, but
I think
this,
we're premature, but I just want to make sure we're not shooting ourselves.
One example is 301 got funded because a specific rural funding source came out, and they were able to fund that project because it fit those funds.
Oh, the rural
Yeah,
money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So also, remember when we first started this endeavor with this ranking project, that most of these projects, ranking projects methodology, take more than 1 year. So we're going to learn from this today as we move forward to next year, and we can tweak this, we can change that methodology based on what you think it needs to be. So just a reminder, when we started this whole process over a year ago, hashing out this methodology can change as we see fit as the need goes. And that's kind of what happened with VNCAP. He says, we need to have something that shows that if we have a project or a plan that comes in multimodal comes in, then maybe that changes the ranking in it. So just think of it that way too. It is a process that we're trying to work through, and it's not going to be done in 1 year as well.
Okay.
Anybody have any more questions? I'm not sure if you were even finished yet, but.
Well, and again, we knew this was going to happen, by the way. But again, it's a process that, you can see those projects. We had those call for projects. Again, very, very important. As you know, you see how important it is for those call for projects from jurisdictions, how they are in the beginning, which will probably be October, November. Yeah,
December,
October,
January.
November, start thinking, even now, start thinking those projects that you want to submit for funding in the LOP, and we can start going, and we're here to help you prioritize that. That next discussion after June might be to, hey, what do we need to change on this prioritization, this ranking that you don't like? Just important to know, our sidewalk, those TA projects, the county came up with that ranking system that we use for sidewalks. And that's one of the things that we're looking at with the new process as well. So that's something maybe that we'll bring to you at a next meeting, that the sidewalk ranking process is totally different than this process that we do for these projects.
Mr. Oakley?
You just brought up something about 301. You're talking about from 56 to Fowler. Is that the project you're talking about?
No, and we're going to get a presentation on that.
Oh, okay.
and
But
today.
you're talking about the project from, to the north at Richmond or back?
Correct.
And
Correct.
I'd like to, at this time, because you brought that up, thank DOT for the quick moving on getting us a light there at Trilby Road and 301. We've even had someone run that light since it's been up, but it's because of safety is the reason they did it. And they do, everybody tells me that DOT never acts very fast, but I'm telling you, they did this project within 2 weeks, and it's there. We had several accidents there that warranted it to be there, and they got it there quickly, which we're thankful for.
Is it a
But
temporary
even
light or a real light?
Secretary Gwynn recognized over on 98, we had a lot of accidents over on 98 and Trilby Road, and they put that roundabout in within a year. They had that in.
Yeah, that's great.
So very thankful for all the work that DOT does for the county
Yeah, good.
and the residents. And it's not just us, for everybody in the District 7, they do that work.
Mr. Chair, I agree 1,000%. Thank you guys, because I've been here 8 years now, and listen, this team is incredible. It's never been better. So thank you guys. I mean, the response is incredible anytime I reach out for anything.
We got the best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just
good
one
question.
question for FDOT. If we're looking at the underpass on Cody River, and we've now got the feasibility numbers for with a golf cart, without a golf cart, can you guys, in your work plan, separate the costs out from one and let us pay the additional cost, or does it mess up the way you have to do things?
Justin Hall with FDOT District 7. The answer is yes, and that was actually the conversation that we had when we met with the county, was that the portion where there's no golf carts or non-vehicular, it can be covered. It's the area outside of that, and so we had a pretty clear demarcation of, I think it was 20 feet or 15 feet for the pedestrians, and it was like 18 feet for the golf carts.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
So we're going to look at these projects. Again, with the way these changes are made, I'm going to make a couple of suggestions. I'm going to go motion by motion to see where it goes. I'm going to say I want to make the Bayou Trail pedestrian underpass as listed. Move that to the #1 project. That's my motion.
A motion?
Well,
Second?
Everything else can move down one, but that's my motion.
I don't know what, can you put that list up? Is that?
That
so
was
what are we-
ranked #1 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was #1 2 years ago.
Yeah, but, okay, I got a problem with that and Marine Parkway. I think you need to drop down Marine
We
Parkway.
can do that. I'm just going to go one by one.
You mean,
All right, let me do
That
the
would
motion this
drop
way.
where- where's number
All right,
one? I
so
know,
let-
but it only drops it down one.
So let me,
And I
all right,
don't
so
think
hold on.
that's right.
So I'm going to modify I'm going to pull back my motion, make another motion. Motion will be to take the Bayou Trail pedestrian underpass, move it to #1 on the list.
What number is that now, Commissioner?
It's right now
there you go. So, right there, you'll see.
I mean, I got like two lists I'm looking at. One's a list, and I got another list.
Okay,
I
number
mean-
one is the 5441, no, 40,
41.
where's that?
41, I guess.
That's a 4154 interchange.
So it's 40, State Road 45, and then west of Wilson.
I'm pretty sure this is the 5441 interchange. Yeah, this is State Road 5441. I,
Switch there. And then,
that's,
Can't move that.
you can't move that.
go ahead and pass it on, so the next page is right there. And then that's where Marine Parkway, Starkey Trail, and 54, that overpass was number 3. Again, these were tied in points. That's why you have the same ranking number, they had the same number of points. Again, that's something maybe that we look at next year, that we can find something that helps with those tiebreakers. We're doing the same thing with regional trails, by the way. So what if
I would-
What's the number that, Commissioner Marion, what's the number of the project?
I'm going to say, 2 years ago it was ranked number
No,
one.
but what is it now? I'm asking.
I don't know.
Where's
I'm looking at, it's down here. Like
I think we should put it at number 3 with the Marine Parkway, just
Above Marine
swap.
Parkway.
flip-
It's not ready.
Yeah, it's not.
I'm-
Swap those two.
Pass is number 14 on this list.
I want this to carry, if we're going to go to, talking about going to DC, et cetera, I want this to show it's not our
Well,
top
number 3
priority.
is way up there.
It's not the top.
Yeah.
If we're going to go,
No,
that's what I'm saying.
5441.
If you mess with 54, 41, you
Yeah.
get to feel
The whole county
you
will
don't
be,
wanna do that.
no.
How about switch with Marine Parkway? Marine Parkway's
I
number
think
3.
that's, yeah,
So you're in top
it's tied
5.
for 3,
You're
yeah.
top
We just
5.
tie it for first
N-
or second.
I don't think that's appropriate.
But again, it was number
I would
one
support
before.
number- I know.
The elected body
I would
voted as
support
number
number
one.
3.
Staff does this new presentation, new calculation, all of a sudden it drops down to number 14.
No, I
It's ridiculous.
understand.
It's like, who's running the show? Staff or us?
Okay, so
We made the decision to make it number one before. If we're going to go for federal money, for economic development money, I think we need to go to number one.
How did it get
And I'm
voted?
okay to move Marine Parkway back.
Yeah.
I just flip-flop those two.
Just a comment, and DOT kind of confirmed this. When we do applications, whether it be TA, SU, or anything, we just put it's ranked on a list, so not always, and Justin kind of reaffirmed that. Maybe it doesn't really matter if it's 1 or 2 or 3.
Right.
It just wants to know that it's ranked on that,
It's ranked
that
high,
priority
yeah.
list. So just think of it that way, too.
I agree.
And I can have Justin confirm that, just, as well from DOT, but we had that discussion as well.
And also, Justin, all of DOT District 7. And also for like the RAISE grant, any of those grant applications, so you're talking about the West River Greenway, City of Tampa, that was a RAISE grant, which is the old Build and old Tiger. They just ask, is it prioritized? And they ask for a resolution from, the planning organization, so it'd be from the MPO saying that the MPO board supports that project for a grant. So, I mean, if it's 3, I mean, that's a pretty good ranking, and I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure at
3.
3 that you could get a resolution from the board saying that you support it for a RAISE grant, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like to amend your
So I'll
motion?
adjust my motion.
14 to switch
So
Marine Parkway.
swap Marine Parkway.
Switch Marine Parkway
Yeah.
and the Bayou Underpass.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're good.
Second.
Second. Any discussion on that?
That's a good motion.
All right. Roll call vote.
It's a straight vote, I think.
Is it roll call?
Roll call?
Real straight roll call?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mayor Camille Hernandez.
Aye.
Mayor Scott Tremblay.
Aye.
Councilman Matt Murphy.
Aye.
Commissioner Ron Oakley.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey.
Aye.
Commissioner Christina Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
And Commissioner Jack Mariana.
Aye.
Good.
Thank you. So I have something
I'm
real
excited
quick.
about
Mr. Starkey, talking about the Marine Parkway Bridge, you talked about how we kind of need to build everything up to it. So in our plan for Newport Richey is the next couple of years, we're going to start rolling out our trail.
I love it.
Grand Boulevard. So on your side, the county from Suncoast Trail going through, Bailey's Bluff, Strawberry Memorial, how that's going to lay out. When is that in the works?
So that's one of the new projects that just got a last minute
Okay.
to the list of priority projects based on Newport Richey. We were actually entertaining and looking at a raised grant just last minute didn't give us the opportunity. But again, we're going to be working with Newport Richey on that project. We've been out there several times. Maybe a future raise grant, we couldn't go for it this year. But again, it's on this list, it's a new project, and we'll start moving forward with the best way to do that project as well.
I'll be able to use that one day.
That's right.
Mr.
We're
Chairman?
not there yet, yeah.
Commissioner?
Another motion on the list. Right now, you have Ranch Road.
And Ranch Road is a TA project that is in the work program this coming, oh, it just got added. We had a TA application for it, for Ranch Road, for
Okay.
sidewalk.
So I want to add, it doesn't stop the determinants you have now, but I want to do it all the way to Ponderosa.
Okay.
And again, this is an area where we just redid the whole area there for flooding, all the way through. We pounded it down, it's smooth. It's actually wide enough for a trail to go right to it. Right connecting to that, connects up to Ponderosa, which goes to Timber Oaks, which is a huge trail all the way around it. So everybody from Timber Oaks going across, also going across can now connect. It's a dangerous road as it dips up and down as far as if you have to walk on that sidewalk. It's dangerous even just driving on it. With the dips that are there, the blocking, this will extend the sidewalk right to Ponderosa.
We'll look at that, because I was just looking back at Jensen on that project as well. We don't want to leave anything short, and a lot of the projects, if they were, and I'll give you an example, Old Dixie, we put an SU application in, it's from start to finish.
I saw that.
The original LOP had it
Broken up,
piecemeal, so
yeah.
if we're going to study it, it's going to be from beginning to end, and we're not going to leave any gaps. So that's important that we'll do that, so.
I have one more question.
Do we call a
When
motion
he's
on that?
done.
Or do you
So-
just want to do it internally?
All the way?
Yeah, they're-
Make sure
they're gonna
Ranch
talk
Road
about
Can you
has,
do it internally if they change anything?
No, we should just.
We'll look at it.
If they send us an email, let's know when we're good.
Okay. All right. And the other two big issues I have is Zimmerman and Ranch Road. Again, one was shifted over from the list to go to the Safe Route to Schools. It wasn't ranked high enough, so it's not going to get funded. I want to get that back on the list up high, and
so we had
start.
a discussion about Zimmerman yesterday, just to let you know, because, and I confirmed that it didn't make the Safe Routes to School. We will move that, since it didn't do that, we will move that. We have Wire Road, and that one will probably be our top two T applications moving forward for this coming year, okay? So
Okay.
it moves it, since it didn't get that funding, we'll move it to the
Okay.
top two there.
So no motion need to be made.
Right.
All right, so let me bring up another topic on Hicks Road from New York Avenue to Bolton. We've already made a connection from Bolton to Denton Avenue. Artillery Road, to the south of that would connect all the way to 52. We've got a development coming in that's proposed to the Board of County Commissioners, about 1,600 homes. They're building a spine road from Denton all the way to Kitten Trail. To the opposite side of that will be another road that could be reliever. It connects Veterans Park to Denton, to our medical center where we have Premier Healthcare up there, dental services up there, hurricane shelters up there. So Hicks Road is a very important road. It's on the Vision Road, but what do I got to get to do to get it on the list? And by the way, we have the right-of-way already.
Well, that's, they gotta, we're not gonna do that from up here.
Well, for 10 years, I've been waiting for it to get on some type of list. It's been listed as a vision, it still hasn't made the list. We know we have the right-of-way now.
There's Mitchell Pool.
What are we going to do to get it on the list?
So I've spoken with your staff about this project, and we looked at it briefly. I had suggested that we include it in the round of projects when we do a call, because we'll be submitting this list to Florida DOT, and then we do another one next year. And we don't update the list in between, but we can score it and add it to the list when we do the call for projects, if that would work for you.
Do you need a motion for that?
Actually, when I was told of the project, I told Sonia, we'll consider this a submittal for the call for projects when we open that up.
So do you need a motion for that?
No,
Okay. I'm good.
sorry. I'm sorry, no, thank you.
Yeah, I had one question, just based on this list, and now the number one at 54 and 41. Do we have a plan? I get asked this all the time. When are we going to figure out what we're going to do there, since it's our number one item? I mean, do you want to talk about it? Are we not going to talk about it?
So we are in discussion with FDOT about the alternatives that have been presented, and we're kind of re-looking at
now
them.
you're just-
And Tania and I are kind of going to take the lead for that project as well with DOT, with the options that they presented, and make sure that multimodal has a little bit more of an issue with those projects as well. So
Yeah, I
so
remember
we're-
it took 21, either 18 or 21 minutes to get from one corner to the other on one of those plans.
so
Not that
we're-
I've seen any pedestrians trying to cross that. but-
That's,
Well,
that's our next most urgency,
18
besides sidewalks, is that 54, 41, and the bigger picture. We're trying to look at the bigger
Okay.
picture for that, too.
Mr. Patrick.
Well, 54 and 41 is one of the intersections on the top 10 list for intersections for fatality and serious injuries. So that is on my priority list.
That's why we're really taking a look at the bigger picture, and not just that intersection, but the whole area, to be honest, because it's not just that intersection that needs some work too. So we're having those discussions as we move forward with the safety office too, as well. We know what, I see those, unfortunately, those fatalities and those crashes.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
When I think we funded it with the TMA or the SP,
Correct.
SCPTA as a top priority project now.
You
It's in the
moved
top
it on the
5.
regional list.
So as you look at it, just keep this in mind. Up at the county landfill, we have piles and piles of old ash that's there, designed for road base. If it's possible to use that with a mix, I think the county could actually help out quite a bit and help themselves by alleviating those piles, which cost a fortune to build. If we can use that for base mixed underneath to go under, use that for an option when you do your cost numbers, work with Mike Carbella, et cetera, to actually use that. It may be a big cost savings and help the county on the other end as well.
And we've been looking at raised grants and some other, that flash methodology that you're talking about gives you extra points, by the way, for funding, so that's great to hear. So, great.
Okay. Is there anything else for the sake of time? I just want to get moving forward if we can. Everybody good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
We were talking about something else.
All right.
Nothing we vote on.
All right. Well, this does require a vote. The MPO board, do I have a motion to approve the draft list of priorities?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
No more discussion.
Mayor Camille Hernandez.
Aye.
Mayor Scott Tremblay.
Aye.
Councilman Matt Murphy.
Aye.
Commissioner Ron Oakley.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey.
Aye.
Commissioner Christina Fitzpatrick. Commissioner Jack Mariano.
Aye.
Thank you, Board.
Ms. Russo.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, moving on to agenda number 5. Draft MPO Transportation Improvement Program for state fiscal years 23 to 27. Be presented by Mr. Scott Ferry.
Good morning.
Morning.
In your agenda packet is a copy of the MPO's draft fiscal year 2023 through 2027 Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP as it's commonly called, which is required to be updated annually by this board. Before we jump into a discussion about the projects and the funding levels in it, I'm going to just take us through a brief refresher about what the draft TIP is, what's in it, and how it's developed. The TIP reflects the MPO's short-term transportation planning efforts, and it's a very important project because it's what enables federal money to be spent on transportation improvement projects in the county. If a planned project is not in the TIP, it cannot be included and it cannot be approved, and no federal money can be spent on it. So let's go ahead and jump into what's in the TIP. The TIP is a 5-year schedule and program of federally, state, and locally funded transportation projects in Pasco County, and it reflects the MPO's short-term transportation programming priorities, and it is one of the MPO's core planning products. Development of the TIP is required by federal law, and it's also required by state law to be updated on an annual basis. And the TIP also is required to be fiscally constrained, which means that the amount that is planned to be spent on the projects in the TIP cannot exceed the estimated amount of funding that's available during the 5-year period. The TIP includes a list of all transportation projects and programs funded with federal and state funds programmed by the FDOT, and it includes all regionally significant projects regardless of their funding source. So that includes any projects that are county funded or privately funded that are deemed to be regionally significant must be included in the draft TIP. The TIP is developed in coordination with the Florida DOT, Go Pasco, and the 7 local units of government in the county. And TIP project priorities are determined through the application of the MPO's project prioritization criteria and ranking. The draft TIP project list reflects project priorities developed and adopted by this board last July. And it reflects project priorities of the Florida DOT as reflected in FDOT's 5-year work program. And it also reflects regional priorities as established through regional cooperation. Major improvement project categories contained in the draft TIP include funding for improvements to the Suncoast Parkway, MPO planning efforts, traffic operations and safety improvements, intelligent transportation projects, additional roadway capacity improvements, resurfacing projects, bicycle and pedestrian improvements, and transit projects. Some of the major improvement projects contained in the draft TIP include the widening of State Route 54 from east of US 41 to Bellamy Brothers Boulevard for a cost of $121.5 million. I-75 to 275 corridor improvements from County Line Road to State Route 56 for $57.6 million. US 98 bypass around Dade City for $35.8 million. The US 41 State Route 54 interchange design and right-of-way acquisition for $33.6 million. And wildlife pedestrian overpasses over the Suncoast Parkways at State Routes 54 and 52 for a cost of $18.7 million. And roadway lighting projects for a total of $4.7 million. Comparing funding levels in our current TIP with the draft TIP, we see that funding is increasing by 68% in fiscal year 2023, 9% in 2024, 145% in fiscal year 2025, and 56% in 2026. Comparing current total TIP funding with the draft TIP funding, spending is projected to increase by an overall amount of $154 million for an increase of funding of almost 50% over a 5-year period.
Is this money the state's giving us?
Primarily, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
That easy, that easy, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll all get our buckets and stand in the corner of 54 and 41 and start
Yes,
collecting now.
this very large funding amount reflects, this very large increase reflects the Florida DOT's commitment to Pasco County and the recognition of the many transportation improvements that exist in the county. And the MPO and the county are very grateful to the Florida DOT for their strong commitment to and partnership with the county.
So are you guys moving here? You live here? Live, work, and play here.
And can we get a copy of that, because it's not in the presentation?
Yes.
Thank you.
I do have some questions on that. Going back, if you could go back to your draft highlights. Are we saying those, hey, I'm okay with it if it gets us more money, but are wildlife crossing our pedestrian overpasses? Are we sharing that with wildlife? So I was just curious about that. That's okay. I don't know why it says wildlife, but what I'm really interested in is the roadway lighting projects. So we have a lot of roads that are really dark, and they're major roads, and I'm just wondering, is there a list of these roads that are gonna get lights? I know in my district, I'm sure you have some in yours, but I'm thinking Trouble Creek, I've said that for years, Trinity Boulevard, Starkey Boulevard, it's pitch black with cyclists going up with lights on their, they have lights on their bikes, but when they go to cross the street or you come out of some of the neighborhoods, you don't see them if they're going this way and you're going that way, you don't see the little headlight on their bike. So I just wonder how we're ranking these roads are getting lights, and we need them badly. So is there a list?
The list is contained in the draft tip document that is part of your packet. I believe the bulk of this roadway lighting project is for State Route 54.
Oh, is that on this thing?
No, it's not actually, it's not a part of this presentation, it's part of the draft tip document.
Oh, okay. So,
There's a list of draft projects.
okay, I'll look at that later. So
And
these are just state roads that, lighting on just state roads?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, where do we talk about lighting on our roads? What, is that at the county level?
That would have to be done on the county level.
Okay. I'll talk about it.
Okay.
Can you move forward one slide?
We need to have some kind of system.
That one. Thank you.
Shady Hills Road.
This funding increase really is, it goes without saying, it's very significant to the county, and it's going to go a long way toward addressing a great many unmet needs.
Yeah, finally. Oh,
Thank
I did
you.
have a question on that section. Driving it today, I know it's a ways off before we construct that, right? That last segment of 52? Yeah, so, I drive it all the time to get here, especially now that the Suncoast is open. I was wondering if it was possible to at least get a passing lane, because it is full of construction trucks pulling in and off. And if we could get some passing lanes here and there, that would make a huge difference in that five years. So,
Commissioner, in answer to your question about the location of the lighting projects, the funding that's shown in the draft tip includes lighting on State Route 52 from US 19 to Hicks Road. It includes State Route 54 from Little Road to US 19 and US 301 from Tucker Road to Pretty Pond Road.
okay. Well, all needed. Wow, $4 million just for that. So, but I just want to throw out that suggestion of a few passing lanes in the meantime would make a world of difference to commuters on that road, especially as more and more construction trucks with Angeline and other projects coming on there, it's gonna be, stop and go, and someone's gonna get hurt, like me, trying to zip around those cars, trucks.
Just real briefly, I'll go over these maps, and then I'll be finished, and I can entertain a motion. But this is just the location of some of the proposed highway capacity improvement projects. And these are all in your packets, and I think you also have some larger copies at your desk. Bicycle and pedestrian improvement project locations, safety improvement projects, county capital project locations. The anticipated adoption of the draft tip is June the 9th, and the anticipated effective date will be July the 1st. Are there any other questions or comments?
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote?
Mayor Camille Hernandez.
Aye.
Mayor Scott Tremblay.
Aye.
Councilman Matt Murphy.
Aye.
Commissioner Ron Oakley.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey.
Aye.
Commissioner Christina Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
And Commissioner Jack Mariano.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ferry. All right, then item number 6, proposed May meeting of the MPO board. Item presented by Mr. Carl.
Yes, so we have the Unified Plan Work Program, which must be submitted by May 15th. I'm asking for a meeting to be held on May 12th, which would follow your usual format of a Thursday, so that we can approve that document and have it submitted to Florida DOT. We'll be bringing some other items to you, the final lot perhaps, but we do need a meeting in order to approve our funding document in its final format.
Okay, this does require a vote of the MPO board. Do I have a motion to approve an MPO board meeting on May the 12th?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on that? All right, roll call vote?
Mayor Camille Hernandez.
Aye.
Mayor Scott Tremblay.
Aye.
Councilman Matt Murphy.
Aye.
Commissioner Ron Oakley.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey.
Aye, but I'm looking at the calendar.
Commissioner Christina Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
And Commissioner Jack Mariano.
Aye.
I can be.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carl. All right.
Where will that be? Sorry.
Oh, Newport Richie, please.
Oh, even
Thank you.
better. All right. All right.
Same time?
Yes, please.
All right, item number 7, Florida DOT Joint Certification Review Report, no funding required.
Yes, so on an annual basis, we are reviewed jointly in partnership with Florida DOT. The good news is we are approved in our process as an MPO. That annual process is required to be done each year, as we do a tip update each year, and that certification is required by our partners over at Federal Highway Administration. So Florida DOT performed an interview with the staff of the MPO, and the best way I could describe that, on February 28th. Prior to that, the staff of the MPO had prepared a questionnaire which gave some background information for DOT to then do their evaluation. And from that, they issued 2 corrective actions. They both relate to the audit that was conducted previously by the Office of Inspector General, and one of them was get it completed, and then also address the FHWA, FTA corrective action from our 4-year review, which said, do all the things that are in the OIG audit. So they relate to each other. We anticipate having all the materials over to Florida DOT by the end of April. The other thing is that they did identify 4 noteworthy practices of the MPO. This is something that does require your approval and does require some signatures on a document.
Move approval.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call vote?
Mayor Camille Hernandez.
Aye.
Mayor Scott Tremblay.
Aye.
Councilman Matt Murphy.
Aye.
Commissioner Ron Oakley.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey.
Aye.
Commissioner Christina Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Commissioner Jack Mariano.
Aye.
How we did this and then paid off.
Thank you. Item number 8, letter supporting County Line Road, CR 578.
Yes, so Our partners at Hernando County, are taking the lead on a RAISE grant application to pursue federal funding in the amount of $25 million. This is a road that will benefit both Hernando and Pasco counties, and we have been asked to provide to them a letter of support. The letter that is before you as an MPO is almost identical to the letter that was then signed by the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, because I thought I signed one already.
You
Okay.
did, yes, you did. You are correct in that.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
We already did it, so.
Roll call vote.
Mayor Camille Hernandez.
Aye.
Mayor Scott Tremblay.
Aye.
Councilman Matt Murphy.
Aye.
Commissioner Ron Oakley.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mueller. Commissioner Catherine Starkey.
Aye.
Commissioner Christina Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
And Commissioner Jack Mariano.
Enthusiastically, aye.
Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
Hernando County also thanks you. I've been talking regularly with the MPO Executive Director up there about this project.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
did we do a motion for the minutes earlier?
We skipped over that.
There were no minutes to approve.
Okay.
All right. I guess go Pasco. Mr. James Flattery will update the board on activities for their transit system.
Good morning, almost afternoon. I'm James Flaherty. I'm the interim director for Go Pasco. If you were not made aware, Kurt has left the organization, and so I'm taking over until there's a permanent person established. So it's only been about a month, in case you didn't know, it's only been about a month since I took over, but we have 7 current projects that are ongoing right now. We have 5307 funding, which you all, as a county commissioners board, signed our certifications and assurances at the last board meeting, so I appreciate that. We can now send that up and start requesting money for operations. We have a 5339 bus and facilities funds grant that we're working on currently that we will be sending up in the next couple of months. We have scheduling software that's working between the purchasing office, IT, and the county attorneys right now. That's going to help us optimize our routes and be more efficient in our planning of routes, their timing, their integration with each other, and having our bus drivers assigned to those routes. We're working on an ITS system, a CAD AVL, which is computer-assisted dispatch and automatic vehicle location software. We're going to be working with purchasing to start procuring that. We did go out previously for a bid. We only received 2 responses. So we're extending the boundaries on that to make it more competitive. So we'll be sending that back out. As you all probably know, we're in the middle of the FY23 budget cycle, so I'm working that. Penny for Pasco projects. We're involved with TBARTA and PSTA on the US 19 RRT. That's an ongoing study. You all talked about schools. We're using our outreach program to start contacting the schools that are along our routes or near our routes, so that way we can start trying to get the schools to do like sponsored bus passes for those students so they could jump on our bus and get to school. So that could hopefully help with the safety aspect. So we're starting to make our connections with those schools. If you did not know, yesterday, the CDC extended the federal mask mandate for transit for another 2 weeks. So it's been pushed out from April 18th until May 3rd.
So when? When is it?
Till May 3rd.
May 23rd?
No, just May 3rd.
April 23rd?
May 3rd.
Ah.
3. It's only
Flying
2
Monday
weeks,
after.
so hopefully they will
Wasn't
be
gonna
able
have
to
to
come to a consensus and we will be done with the masks on public transportation. Sorry? Other than that, open to questions.
Mr. Chair?
You recognize.
In the latest, well, I don't know how long ago, in the February, I was working on clearing my desk, the February edition of National Association of Counties, County News, they had an interesting article on paratransit and a program they have in Broward. So I want to give that to you. And I just gave one to every commissioner up here or council person. It's about kind of like a program that they had to do last-minute changes for paratransit riders. So I just wanted everyone to see that. And I always like learning best practices from people who've already figured out how to do it, so.
Okay, thank you.
I am interested, Commissioner Starkey, in reading this. It does
Yeah.
I didn't get to read the whole thing yet, but it's talking about $14, $18 a trip. I know our paratransit is $2 each way for our elderly.
Yeah, dig into it. I just thought it was interesting, and I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. I did have a DOT question. I'm done with Go Pasco. Is there more of Go Pasco?
Only if you all have questions.
I have one piece to add from the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Okay. I have
During our
DOT.
Citizens Advisory Committee, they asked James a number of questions, and one of the things that they brought up, they got into the pay for the drivers. And the Citizens Advisory Committee noted that they felt that, given the current economic climate, that the salaries of the Go Pasco drivers were a bit low, and they unanimously supported asking you to then support higher pay for the drivers. But this was born from the members of the Citizens Advisory Committee after asking some questions. They did not state in what form that support would take, but they just asked that you be made aware that they unanimously supported
Mr. Chair.
higher pay for the drivers.
Mr. Starkey?
I think that if someone would do a little analysis of what's happening in the Tampa Bay area and bring that back to us, we should look at that. I did just see an article, I didn't read it, that Pinellas County just raised theirs. So, you know, we don't need to be losing our bus drivers when we know there's a shortage, so.
Commissioner,
We given $1,000 bonuses recently?
Yes. For the last over 6 months, we've been trying to gain more hires through a $1,000 incentive bonus. Sort of helping. We're maintaining a level. It's just, competition is pretty fierce out there right now for CDL drivers. But the county is doing a pay and class study, so hopefully that will
Okay, good.
drive
Mr.
us a little bit
Fitzpatrick?
better.
And I thought the state was increasing their employees' wages to a minimum of $15 an hour, that the county was looking at taking over as well on July 1st. So that
So-
means the minimum wage for our bus drivers would be 15.
Right, so that is part of the county's pay and class study that they're doing, is bringing everybody the minimum floor to 15 and then potentially elevating each level above that at a certain percentage. I don't know all the details. I'm in it, but not that far into it. But yes, but our drivers are being required to maintain CDLs. It's a little more difficult than, you know, a $15 custodian position, that's all.
I think it was paid. Do you know what they're starting at right now?
Our drivers, they're at like 1480.
Who's doing this?
And when, do you know when we'll have the study back?
I do not know.
Okay.
That's with HR and county administrator.
I agree in increasing their pay.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
That'll be part of our budget discussions for the, when we have our budget workshops, that'll be part of the.
All right, any other questions? Mr. Carl, you
I
good?
want to share that with you, that was something the CAC asked me to share with
Yeah.
you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Mr. Flaherty. We have two status reports, presentations on the agenda. Number 9 is US 301 Project Development and Environment Study. No funding required.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Amber Russo. I'm the FDOT project manager for this PD&E study. Also with me today is Bob Fink. He is the consultant project manager with AIM Engineering, and we're here to provide you a status update on the project. Here's a map of the project limits. So it's along US 301 from Fowler Avenue up to State Road 56 for a total of 13.1 miles. The purpose and need of the project is to provide additional roadway capacity and improve safety and improve mobility for pedestrians and bicyclists. I also want to note US 301 has been designated as an emergency evacuation route. Today, this stretch of US 301 is a 2-lane undivided roadway. The posted speed varies from 50 to 60 miles per hour through the corridor. There are some small segments of sidewalk on the south end, as well as bicycle lanes. We also have the existing old Fort King Trail from the John B. Sargent Park to north of Cherry Tree Lane. There is no existing transit service today, and the existing right-of-way varies from 100 to 200 feet wide. US 301 is an important north-south corridor. It connects regionally significant corridors, such as I-75, I-4, and all those state roads on your screen there. US 301 is also a hurricane evacuation route, and it connects regional centers in Zephyr Hills and Temple Terrace to the Tampa Bay area. So like I said, safety is a key element for this project. Based on, we modeled the year 2040 traffic volumes. They're projected to range from 27,800 to 49,300 vehicles per day, which is level service F in both directions during peak hours. During the 5-year period that we studied from 2015 to 2019, there were 464 crashes, which involved 16 fatalities, 338 injuries, 24 head-on collisions, and 5 crashes involving a pedestrian. A portion of this project, the southern end, the crash rate is almost double the statewide average. So as part of the build alternative, we have 2 typical sections, starting in the southern end in blue from Fowler Avenue to Stacy Road. This is a suburban typical section with widening to 4 lanes, divided with a raised 30-foot median. We also have 5-foot paved outside shoulders, a 6-foot sidewalk on the east side, and a 12-foot shared use path along the west side. The target design speed for this typical is 55 miles per hour, and the total proposed right-of-way width varies from 169 to 200 feet wide. Moving to the northern portion from Stacy Road to 056 in pink, that is a more rural section, also 4 lanes undivided, or 4 lanes divided. Sorry, I said that wrong. There is a 40-foot depressed median in this area. We continue the 5-foot outside paved shoulders and the 12-foot shared use path along the west side. The target design speed in this section is 65 miles per hour, and the total right-of-way width is proposed to be 235 feet.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Looking at the Fowler to Stacy Road, you have a 6-foot sidewalk. On the Stacy Road to State Road 56, there is no sidewalk on the other side, but the spacing looks like it's there. Any reason it wasn't put in?
The main reason was, since the northern portion is a more rural area, we did leave room for a sidewalk, but we did not include that in the cost of the project. But it is an alternative right now. We just had our public hearing, which I'll get into, and we're going to be making some changes to the project.
Okay.
So that's on the list.
Would you like a suggestion from us later on if we want to see that added?
Well, let me ask you a question. With that section, on that shared use, can golf carts use that shared use path?
Not that I'm aware of.
Why not make a golf cart path on that side? Because pedestrians can use that side.
I would like to see a sidewalk because I don't think kids should have to cross all the way to the other side of the road to be safe.
Well, I'm not sure kids are walking around that.
On 301.
Yeah, not on 301.
You never know.
It is a more rural section, but we have gotten comments.
Okay, ATMs.
On wanting.
Using a path over there in the more rural section. ATVs. Just it.
I made note of that, thank you. Okay, so I just also want to mention that where possible, the existing roadway will be used for the southbound direction, so there'll be some pavement savings associated with the project, and then we'd be building the new northbound lanes. There are 4 bridges along the project. They're in good condition, and they have the structural capacity to remain. So the goal is to keep those in place, and just like with the pavement savings on the roadway, we'd be building the northbound operation and also widening the bridge for the 12-foot shared use path on the west side. So since we're going to be adding a median to this roadway, the access will change for drivers, and we've classified this corridor as an access class 3, which requires restrictive medians. So based on the allowable spacing, we're proposing 15 full median openings and 11 directional median openings. Since we are adding pavement to the corridor, this requires 8 proposed off-site floodplain compensation sites and 13 stormwater management facilities, which add up to an additional just about 106 acres of proposed right-of-way that will be required for these off-site facilities. And this graphic on here is an example basin map from our draft pond siting report that you can find on our website. As part of the PD&E study, we analyzed the environmental effects and the impacts on natural and cultural resources, as well as the social and physical environments. The estimated project cost, I am so sorry this got messed up on the slide, including design, right-of-way, CI construction, totals to just under $200 million. Federal funds are not currently planned for this project, so we are developing a state environmental impact report, or a SEER. And as far as your LRTP, this is not in the cost feasible plan, but it can be found in your needs plan. The study began back in May 2015, and we just held our public hearing on Thursday, March 24th. So we're in the process of responding to public comments and most likely making some changes to the project based on comments from Hillsborough County.
Wait, Madam Chair, or Mr. Chair, sorry, doggone it.
Good, Commissioner.
Sit next to
Madam
her.
Chair.
Sorry. How's
He'll-
that
he'll
going?
answer
How's
to
that
that.
going with Hillsborough
He'll
County so
answer to
far?
Madam.
How's this discussion working out with the commission?
We're revisiting some items along the project, so that summer 2022 approval date will most likely be moving out.
Yeah, so what, just out of curiosity, what are some of the responses? From the
There
Hillsborough
are
County Commission?
envi-
Mary L. Smith, Commissioner Smith, for example.
the environmental
Makes it different.
impacts.
Yeah.
Environmental impacts are an issue. Justin can add to this, adding capacity through this corridor.
So the 3 issues, environmental concerns, expanding outside of the urban service boundary, and that they feel like this is a rural road and that additional capacity is not needed.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just continue on.
Commissioner?
I just want to get this in because I have a 12 o'clock meeting, but I think one of the comments I saw, that was by Commissioner Smith in Hillsborough County, that there was no planned development along that corridor in Hillsborough County, but if I'm not correct, Mr. Thomas's property, not only on the Pasco side, is already, the plan's already in for development.
And on the
that's-
other side too, on
Yeah, and the
Hillsborough
other
too.
side too. That's 301. So I don't know, I'm
Yeah.
not sure if they're not following the development approvals that they've approved in Hillsborough County, but that's actually moving forward.
Yeah.
And I remember years ago, one second.
Yeah. No, I'm asking.
When I used to live in, for years, I lived in Hillsborough County, and back in the day when I was in the medical world and healthcare world, and a lot of my clients were in Zephyr Hills and Dade City. These are physicians and hospitals and things like that. And I traveled that road on a pretty consistent basis for my office, which was located in Temple Terrace. Wow, that was scary. Talk about scary roads. I mean, 301, I mean, there's areas that if you go off the shoulder, you're in the ditch. And you definitely don't want to cross the center line. So this, to me, this makes perfect sense. And we always talk about, and again, I read some of the comments that some people made, and I appreciate their comments and their concerns. At the same time, you know, we're at the point in this area, this region, where we need to get ahead, right? We get ahead. All we hear from our citizens, why didn't you do this before? Why didn't you do this before? Well, here's that perfect opportunity. Let's get ahead of the game. Because it's coming. It's already coming. So common sense says, let's get ahead of it before the development comes.
And kind of to your point, she presented the traffic volumes, and you know, if you look at the current traffic volumes are like 12 to 14,000 out there, and people are complaining about congestion. And you see even on the low end, you know, 29,000. So that's over 2 times what the current volumes are. So.
And with that new development, there's 2 new developments come that are already on the books. I don't remember how many homes it is, but it's quite a few. So we can probably add another 5 to 10,000 a day right there.
Oh, yeah. But I've already gotten emails from people talking about congestion when they go on 301 from 56, and it's just crowded. I mean, it's terrible. Last night, if this road had already been done, which I feel like it should have already been done, a person would not have died this morning at 2:45 when they had a head-on collision there, and they closed 301 this morning.
Yeah, two fatalities this morning.
Oh, was it two?
There's two.
Okay, I just heard about the
Double
one.
fatality.
But they had a head-on it. A person was, I understand,
red
was
car?
passing,
Oh, I
was
saw that.
passing
lady.
a truck on that road, which
Oh, no, that's-
you can't do. That's a shame. I've gone down that road and people have passed me on the right.
Yeah,
There's no road over there. So,
Yeah,
but it's terrible, and it needs to be done.
Yeah, and you can see, I mean, the documented safety concerns that are there. And
Yeah.
just so you know, I mean, District 7's taken a pretty proactive approach. So we just started yesterday a safety project to go ahead and put signals at 3 of the intersections out there. So, I mean,
Okay.
we're not going to sit by idly. I mean, this is a corridor that we
Right.
can't ignore. But at the same time, to Amber's point, we are going to rework a few things to see if we can address some of the concerns of the Hillsborough County Board.
Yeah.
That's always classic. At the county line, it gets more development to the north, and it's rural to the south in parts like us.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick?
When, going back
Gun
to the
highway.
previous slide, when looking at full and directional intersections, did you take into consideration the businesses that are already established there and the communities?
Yes, of course, that's taken into consideration. We do, of course, have a minimum spacing between the openings. And of course, as part of the PD&E process, that's why we open it for public comment and
Well, for example, I'm gonna just put the one out there. If you have garbage trucks or semi-trucks that have to come out and make a left-hand turn or a right-hand turn, and now all of a sudden they all have to make right-hand turns and go 10 minutes all the way around to get back to where, the point that they needed to go. So that was just concerning, and I know there's other communities that have concerns about coming out and being able to make a left-hand turn instead of making a right, going down to the following intersection, making a U-turn in a divided 2-lane highway, and it's very congested, so, thank you.
Oh, go ahead, yep, thank you.
where was that? All right. Also want to mention that we're currently in the design phase in-house at FDOT, very preliminary, but right-of-way and construction are not currently funded. As I mentioned, we had our public hearing not too long ago on March 24th. It was held at our District 7 headquarters in Tampa. We had 37 in-person attendees and even more online. We had 47 virtually. We received 15 verbal comments during the formal portion, and the main concerns included the need for additional capacity to alleviate congestion, environmental impact concerns, safety, and the desire for traffic signals, and the need for noise abatement. And the official public comment period ended April 4th, so like I mentioned, we're still responding to comments and questions. And I have included the project website on here. You can see all the draft project reports and all the materials that were on display at the hearing. And there's also my contact information. And thank you for the opportunity to present today.
All right, any questions?
Move approval.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep, good.
I'll second,
I think
I'll
it's no-
second
I
the
think it's no
discussion.
action.
There's no action on this one, I don't think.
Yeah, and I'm very interested in this next one
Yep.
here.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Amber, great presentation, glad to see it coming forward. Don't feel that my comment pushes to get the sidewalk done. With a limited amount of funding to get it done, I just wanted to discuss it as to why, so.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Thank you. All right,
Who's got
item,
10?
You have a motion and a second.
No, there's no.
Oh, there's no
action
vote on
this
it?
one.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, item number 10, 2022 FDOT non-motorized counts presentation, no funding required. Ms. Tina Russo.
I'll make this quick. So this is kind of follow-up. Last year, we did the FDOT non-motorized program for the first time last February. Again, it's a free program basically that DOT comes out and we set up non-motorized counters, and we use the maximum location. We use 5 locations. So we did that in February. We did it again this February. So for once we get a chance to see comparison numbers from 2 weeks from last year and 2 weeks to this year. A couple of good things that have come out of this is, one is we'll do it again in August, but we're also looking at purchasing our own non-motorized counters in the near future so we can really get real data and see how to take advantage of these numbers. And I'm sorry, Patty, that I didn't use this earlier. So one of the comments that came, I made this presentation, Dr. Stovall mentioned it already, that came out of our presentation, the BPAC, and I was excited that they got to see this first, is we do have a long-term counter at Suncoast Trail, just a little bit north of 54, that continuously counts for us, and we're able to pull up those numbers anytime, and that's what's going to happen when we have other long-term counters as well. And we're also going to have to move this when we put in the new overpass at 54 for the Suncoast Trail, because there's going to be an on-ramp basically where it's currently at. But we can pull up these numbers, and it's great to see how many people use that piece as well. So we use 5 locations. Weather in February plays a big part on numbers on non-motorized counters. So one of the things I do is make sure I get those numbers, whether it be rain or cold or something, because then you're going to notice that there's a real difference in number. So we do some data to help figure out what might affect those numbers as well. And February always has different weather, as we know. So we did that each year. So the 5 locations, location is really important for non-motorized counters for several reasons. One is there's a reason why we want them there. We want those counts at that location. The second thing is for the safety of extracting the data, we want to have a place that's safe for us to get out and get that data as well. And we do have to extract the data for these counters. New systems have different options with Bluetooth that we can use cellular as well. The 5 locations were the north side of Trinity Boulevard. I wanted to catch the numbers of the folks coming from Pinellas County, okay? The other counter is just south of Starkey Market, just a little bit north of Longley on the Starkey Gap as well. That's the north side of 54. I wanted to get the numbers on that south side of 54 and the north side of 54. The third counter is in Starkey Park, and it's at a location where pretty much everybody's funneled into the park, so we get a really good number there. There is one on Suncoast Trail just north of Starkey Park, and then there's one north of 52. Again, because we have an overpass going in at 52 in Suncoast, I wanted to see the number difference from that south side of 52 and the north side of 52.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner?
You know, looking at the font standard just for the future.
What was that?
Looking at the font size that's here.
Yeah, and
how do you expect us to read that?
You're gonna get the better view of it here.
No, that's what I'm saying is like.
So these are the numbers from this year, and we get a daily average with these numbers, and you can see all of them up. I'm just going to go through this really quick. You guys can look at them if you need and just ask questions. These are those 5 locations. There's 2 types of counters at each location. There is an infrared counter that actually tracks pedestrian traffic, and then there's a tube counter that actually gives us the numbers for bike. So these are those 3 different locations, Starkey at Trinity, Starkey at Fernandino, which is that one just south of Starkey Market, and then Starkey Trail is that one in Suncoast. I'm just going to zip through here so you can kind of really see.
But how do we tell if they're higher than last year?
I'm going to show you.
Okay.
I'm going to jump to that right now. So this is something that you really want to see, though. This is the daily average for this year. Numbers are really good, but Starkey Park has the highest daily average of all 5 locations, okay? And then I'm going to jump right to this. This is what you were asking about. So 2022 is on that left column there. 2021, the year before that, is that next column. The little yellow, that percentage, they all went up from last year. The weather was really, I'll be honest with you guys, the weather was really weird both these Februaries. So some of that kind of affects that. So one of the advantages of us having our long-term counters is we can really get good data. So some of those really jumped. And one of them is, on a Saturday there, you went from 241 daily average, this is daily average, to 421 daily average on that one. And then the big one all the way across the board, each one of them had jumps in daily averages. And the biggest one again, and this might have been affected by weather from the previous year, but we had like, look at the difference at that Starkey Park one. It went up 183% and 360% average at Starkey Park from last year to this year. Pinellas County has 8 counters. They've had over a 200% increase in use from year to year to year, and it's increasing each year. So those are some of those numbers. This is that one at Suncoast, just a little bit north of Starkey, still increases, and then the one at 52 as well. This will give you a little bit better understanding of the difference between last year and this year on numbers, and you can kind of see everything's up when it came from this year to last year at all 5 locations. And again, the biggest one is that one at Starkey Park.
I wonder if you should do it, have a bigger test,
so
because the weather affects it so much.
So again, we are kind of locked in with DOT letting us use them those 2 weeks, but that brings me to this.
Okay.
We're looking at purchasing our own non-motorized counters and putting them at location where we don't have to pick the 2 weeks or have the 2 weeks. We can kind of continually get those counts. We're also looking at some temporary counters. These are long-term. Once they're in, they're pretty much in. But we want to purchase some temporary counters and move them around maybe for future use areas. And also, that way we can kind of get different numbers at different places if we need them for certain projects and so forth and so on. But 8 of these are used by Pinellas. They put in, I think they have a grant for some new ones coming up. And then Hernando Citrus has a couple of them as well. The company is local, which is really nice. We went out and demoed them, and that's where we did this when we demoed a couple of long-range counters. So that's it. If you have a couple questions.
Mr. Chair. So I can see where we should put some permanent ones in certain locations and then take the DOT ones and move them around more. So we get, you know, maybe on the Marine Parkway, 301 Trail, just move around and get more information around the county.
So the DOT are given to us 2 weeks in February and August. We're kind of locked into whatever they let us do. And that's why we want to purchase our own, because we can kind of, and then we have the option of long-term and those temporary ones.
Right.
And then maybe those temporary ones maybe come into, if we need to, long-term counters as well.
Great. Okay, I have a question for DOT, if we're all done. And we're
Well, we
at
got-
items. Do we have something else?
Mr. Carl has tip.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
got it.
voted on
Okay.
that, May 12th.
All right, well, for the DOT, they have any?
And Carl, if you could put up the the map, maybe you didn't see the text I sent you. You know, maybe I don't have you right.
Thank you, Ms. Russo.
If you could put up the map to Black Lake Road, please, on that. I sent you a text, but I'm wondering if I send it to your office phone.
Hopefully I can answer this one.
You know this already?
No,
Oh,
that's
okay.
why I'm curious.
So I found this out yesterday when I was in a meeting with a developer who's coming in with a project on State Road 54, and we're trying to get him to front it on Black Lake versus State Road 54, so that there's easy multimodal access from the community all south of Black Lake Road, which Black Lake Road used to be 54. And then when you took out the turn, there's this triangle piece of property. Is that it? Okay, so you need to zoom out and then go to the east just a little bit. So 54, so the Black Lake Road is the old 54. Keep zooming out just a little bit. It has a dead end there. That's still FDOT property. And I think it's a mistake. And because it's FDOT property, the developer has to follow certain things regarding access, and we checked it out, and it's still listed under you guys, so.
So the
whatever-
portion on the north side, there's like a cul-de-sac, so you're
That's
talking
Black
about,
Lake Road, that's the old county, that's old 50, that
So-
was the original 54.
so we're talking about the triangle portion.
The little piece of the road, now you can zoom in, I guess. See where that's Black Lake, where he has the arrow? This is the old Benke property, and one of the Benke still lives there in that little house. So that road,
Okay,
that little road now that has a dead end, is Black Lake Road, but you all still own it.
gotcha, okay.
So,
Well-
I think that's an easy thing.
Yeah, no,
to
that's
fix.
easy. I mean, if
Yeah.
we still own it, we can do a quick road transfer on that. I mean, with that, I'm doing that right now on like 3 different roads working with Margaret. So if this is one of them, we can get that taken care of pretty quickly.
That'd be great.
Okay,
All right. That's it.
that was easy. Thank you.
Do you have any more updates or anything? Good? All right.
I'm sure you don't want it. We want you to pave it first. No.
All right, we only a few of us left, so is there any
Yes.
comments from the members? Mr.
Real-
Patrick?
Real quick, I have an application for an alternative member of the BPAC committee.
Do we have a quorum?
1, 2, 3.
No, we don't.
Okay.
Next meeting?
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you.
Did we just lose someone just a second ago? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Do you have anything, Mr. Starkey?
No, I'm done.
Mr. Mariano?
I just want to say thanks to FDOT for listening and being engaged in the conversation we had today, putting the prior list together. Amber, thanks for the job. Carl as well. Tina, thank you very much. So I think we looked at some different things, and I think we can think creatively along the way to try to help with the transportation. So
Yeah, it was
good
a great meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Like a motion to adjourn then?
Move to adjourn.
All right, thank you.
And wildlife depend on you to keep them healthy. Excess fertilizer, grass clippings, trash, oils, and pet waste wash into gutters and storm drains when it rains. Stormwater carries these pollutants directly into our lakes and rivers, creating an unhealthy environment for fish, waterfowl, and other aquatic animals. Storm drains are meant for clean rainwater.